Welcome to the Academic Writing Amplified podcast. On this podcast, we believe that the culture of academia needs to change radically. Women and non-binary people are revolutionizing academia within institutions that were not built for us. If you're ready to reject the culture of overwork, kick guilt and overwhelm to the curb, and amplify your voice to make a real impact on your field without breaking down or burning out, you're in the right place. With our team of experienced writing coaches as co-hosts, we'll share insights and talk to inspiring guests to bring you the practical strategies, systems, and mindset shifts you need to find time to write, publish work you love, and design your career on your terms. And it all starts with writing. Let's go. Welcome. I'm Kathy Mazak, and this is Academic Writing Amplified. I am so excited to get into our topic for today, which is, how do you know that it's time to quit academia? Now, we have noticed in our programs that we are getting more and more people that are joining because they're trying to figure out if academia is even still right for them. And we offer programs to people who are professors. So it's not like we're talking about people who don't have the prestigious tenure track job. They have that job and they are asking themselves the question, is this right for me? Or maybe should I quit? So this video is directed to you if you are a professor, whether you are in a tenure track institution like those in like many who have positions in North America, or whether you don't use the words tenure track, but you are full-time and permanent, which is kind of the language used in Europe and other places. This video is for you. Maybe you're feeling like, what did I get myself into? I'm not sure if this is right for me. And you're thinking about quitting. So I'm going to talk today about a process for figuring out, kind of diagnosing what's really going on and whether it's a situation that you should quit or not. I mean, sometimes it is. I left academia. So yeah, let's get into it. So before we get started though, I want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by our Navigate Your Writing Roadmap program. Navigate is a 12-week program that opens for enrollment 3 times a year, and applications are now open. We have an application process, which includes everybody who goes through the application process is going to have a pre-enrollment phone call with me. So applications are now open. You can go to scholarsvoice.org/navigate, find the pink button, and apply today. If you're not watching or listening in real time, don't worry, that same button will get you on the wait list for the next round. Okay, how do you know it's time to quit academia? This is going to take some journaling, okay? Some walking and thinking, some sitting and writing. You really got to dig into it because that's a pretty big decision. So I'm going to help you figure it out today. So the first thing that you need to do if you're considering quitting academia is you need to really reflect on what is making you have the thoughts of quitting. So many of you are between semesters now, if you're watching or listening in real time. So this is actually a great time to think about this. You're going to need to get very specific, okay? So really writing down what are the things that are happening right now that are giving you those feelings of, I think this might not be for me. So I'll give you a bunch of examples, right? Like some people get to this point when they are feeling completely overwhelmed with the amount of work they have to do. They can't get above water. They can't even get above water to do the most important things. And actually, this is a really important distinction. They can only do urgent things. You can't get above water to do the actual important things like writing and publishing. And what this creates is a cycle that is a increasingly stressful cycle, right? Where you have very urgent things that you need to do that you're kind of those putting out fires kind of things. You need to teach your classes, you need to get your grades in, you need to collect data, you're on a timeline for a grant, those kinds of things. Maybe you have a lot of service work and there's a bunch of dates and deadlines that are like tied up in that service work that you need to hit. And then at the same time, what's happening while you are hitting all of those urgent deadlines is that you are not doing the important work for your career, the work that's going to help you to keep getting grants, the work that's going to be able to get you promoted, the work that's going to be able to make that career something that is a long career. And those important things are often writing and publishing, right? So you don't have publications because you don't have time to write because all you're doing is urgent stuff. So a lot of people are in that cycle and they say to themselves, okay, is this sustainable? Is something that I can continue to do long term? Because it feels like it's not. Okay. So again, this is just like possibility. Like, so that might be something you write down. Like you're in an unsustainable cycle that you can't figure out how to get out of. All right. Another thing that might be getting you down, right, and making you think about quitting is dealing with the bureaucracy of your institution. Or maybe, you got your tenure track job or your permanent job, and you know that not everybody got tenure track or permanent jobs. And so you're like, well, here I am, and I have what everybody wants, and it doesn't feel good. Like I don't fit in my department. I'm having trouble navigating the bureaucracy and what I need to do. The attitude of the people here doesn't seem to match mine. Maybe it's a values mismatch. Like I have different values than this institution. Maybe you were educated at an R1 and your job is at a Slack or an R2, and you kind of don't know how to be in that culture that's very different from where you were like academically raised. So those are all just examples of reasons that people kind of start to feel like maybe this isn't for me. Another one, right, is quality of your family and home life, right? So many people who have children while they're on the tenure track start to question, like, is this really sustainable with these children? Maybe you're a caretaker for an older family member. You're in a sandwich generation, right? Where you're taking care of an older family member or a partner or somebody, and also taking care of children. And that can be really, really stressful and can make you think like, well, this isn't the kind of job that goes with the lifestyle outside of work that I currently have or that I want, right? You could also be a single person just trying to care for yourself, right? Or maybe you have a partner, just you and a partner. Regardless, that caring for others or caring for self keeps not happening because you are constantly overworked and stressed out in the job. And so that makes us have the thought, maybe this type of work is not the work for me. Okay. So basically, though, those are just ideas to like get you started or to give you an example. But what you really need to do is figure out for you and be very, very specific. Like you can even write down like certain things that have happened recently or that continue to happen or happened in the past that have made you have that thought like, maybe this is not the job for me. And I have to think about a different line of work or a different type of job. Okay. So that's the first part, is listing out like what are those kind of triggering events or things that are happening that make you have the thought about quitting academia. And then the second part, of course, is what are the things that you love about academia? Like, what are the parts of your job that absolutely like light you up and remind you that you have like a vocation for what you're doing? Like, what are those things? Maybe they are those moments in the class where your students are having a breakthrough or you're all coming together in a great conversation. Maybe those scientific breakthrough moments, right? In the lab that happen when you're like, oh, wow, like, look at these results I got, or look how this experiment is going. I feel like so invigorated by it. Maybe they are the writing moments and publishing moments that you don't get enough of, right? But that you love. Maybe they're the presenting and the conferences where you're like with colleagues, exchange of ideas. What are those moments that light you up that you're like, yes, this is the career for me? So we want to both get very specific about what makes you have those thoughts of quitting. And then what makes you have those thoughts of staying, right? Of like, this is for me, this is what I was called to do, or this is something that really like lights me up and excites me and seems like a good career for me. Okay. So you need both of those lists. Then what you need to do is with those lists, you want to reflect on whether the things you wrote on the list are characteristics of what I'm going to call the container. And then I'll explain that in a minute, or not. Okay. So what I mean by the container, and this is like kind of a phrase that you'll hear me say in other places or on the podcast and in the YouTube videos, something I feel very strong about is that you are not the container. So if you're in a professorial job, the container is like professorship at a university. That is the container. And you are doing your work in the world through that container. That is the container that kind of like facilitates your work in the world. That is never the only container through which you could do the work. So just to give like a very simple example, if you have a PhD in gender studies, right? Like you could be a professor of gender studies and you're doing your work in the world through that container and everything that is a part of that. Teaching, research service, publications, contributions to the field, grant getting, all of those things. And that is your container. You could also be doing your work in the world through a nonprofit. You could be doing it through teaching high school, potentially. Like there are many different containers. Maybe you have a consultancy. Maybe you have your own business. Maybe you're a motivational speaker, right? There's many, many different containers through which you can do the work. And some people, this is what I did, right? Like you kind of have work that you want to do in the world and you create your own container. And that's what I did as an entrepreneur, creating the business that is bringing you this content. Okay. So the container, though, a lot of times as professors, and of course, like you say, I'm a professor, right? You say, I am, and you say the container, right? But you're not, right? Like the container is not equal to you. Like this is not the only option. And your work is still worthy in the world without this particular container of professorship. Okay. So that's what I want you to start to see. I want you to start to be able to separate yourself from the container and look at it from the outside perspective rather than just being so close to it and almost one with it in a way that you can't separate like the characteristics of the container from the characteristics of your work. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay, hopefully. So now what? Yeah, you have your lists and you start to look at each one of these things on the list. Is this a characteristic of the container through which I am doing the work? Or is it a characteristic of my particular job, right? Like, for example, the container is professorship, but my job is I'm a professor at a certain rank at a certain university in a certain position. Okay. That's when you start to kind of tease those things out, you can start to take them and make some analytic choices about what you can actually do, because there are things that you can do. It's not like you just have to accept the glorification of busy and the reliance on overwork and all of these things that you think are like just part of being an academic. If those are the things that are making you have thoughts about quitting, those kinds of things can actually be engineered to be better. And that's like exactly what we do in our programs. We job craft, we figure out ways, and you get coached on ways to make those features of the container you're in right now sustainable. Okay. Like that first example I did at the beginning, that you might be wanting to quit because you feel like you're overwhelmed with urgency, you're not getting to the important stuff. That problem is a problem that we can solve. That's a problem that you can solve through self-coaching, through reflection, through skill building. And if you want help with that, that's what our Navigate program is about. And so those are solvable problems. If you are in a specific job, though, Like if you're in a specific university and you find you have a real values mismatch with the university, harder problem to solve. Like you're going to have to compromise your values or the university is going to have to like change values. You don't have to have exactly the same set of values, but there needs to be like enough overlap that it makes sense. Okay. So again, like getting all these, like, what are the reasons that I'm thinking of quitting? Are these characteristics that I need to live with, or can they be re-engineered by me? Again, that same problem of like, I'm overwhelmed, I have a lot to do, I have a lot to say, and I'm not getting my publications out. That is a problem that you can build skills around to solve. But then, like, I don't know what's on your list, right? You have to look at your list and think, like, is this something that I could actually work on and get better at or not? Okay. So that will help you in that decision to if you want to quit or not. Again, a lot of people are coming to us recently with like this idea of like, I am just not willing to work 60 or 80-hour weeks. I am unwilling to do that. So I need to figure out a sustainable way to do this job within a 40-hour work week, or I can't continue down this path. That's a solvable problem for most people in most places. Some places it's not. And then you would need to go on the market and potentially find another job. But do you have to leave academia completely? Maybe not. Then I want you to, in terms of the list of things that you are looking at that are like, these are the things that make me want to stay. These are the things I love about this job. Just starting to kind of think creatively about possible other containers through which to do the work can also be like really, really helpful in terms of calming those thoughts around quitting. Because it's not that you shouldn't have thoughts of quitting. Like, obviously, like I'm telling you a whole process, right, to entertain those thoughts. But it can be very stressful to be constantly thinking, maybe this job isn't for me, and not having a path to figure it out. Okay. So that's why I'm giving you these ideas of how you might figure it out. If you start to imagine different containers through which to do the work, then you can start to say like, oh, is that a container that's like available for me now? Do I need to build towards it? Does it sound more appealing than where I am? And you just start to open your mind. You start to get to think about like, what might I do? And that's putting yourself back in that agentive place. Like, I have agency over my career and I can act on that agency to make my career better. All right. That is exactly kind of where we want your headspace to be. So I guess I will just end by saying we have coached literally hundreds of academics. And actually, most of the time, the problems that are making people feel like they want to quit are solvable problems. They are problems that you can address through skill building and coaching. They are not, so professional development. They are not quit your job and do something completely different. Most people do not need to do that. They just don't know that there is a way to make academia sustainable for them. They don't know that. It's almost all or nothing thinking, right? It's like either I have to subscribe to this culture of academia that tells me I have to work 60 or 80-hour weeks. It tells me that I have to be isolated. It tells me I have to do the urgent, not the important, even though that's to my detriment. It tells me I have to live stressed out and always busy. Like, if you think there's either that or quitting academia and doing a different career, what I'm here to tell you is that there actually is a way to make academia sustainable. And the only way that we are going to make this scholarly life a viable option for the future, which I frankly believe it needs to be, because we need scientists and humanists and thinkers and writers, and we need these people as humanity. Like, we need scholarship. If you believe that as well, that humanity, that scholarship is part of what we need to continue to kind of move forward as humans, then we have to start creating a different culture inside of academia. We have to create a different way to do it. We're seeing now, especially post-pandemic, especially in this historical moment, we're seeing people rejecting the idea of overwork, of glorification of busy, of 80-hour weeks. That's what we're seeing in our programs. We're seeing people say like, well, I got to figure out how to do this sustainably or I'm not going to do it. And it didn't used to be like that. It used to be, I need to figure out how to do this sustainably because I don't have another choice. That's not what we're seeing people saying now. What we're seeing people saying now is, I'll figure out something else if this isn't going to be sustainable, if this doesn't give me not just the career that I want, but the lifestyle and the life that I want. So I encourage you to think about this exercise. If this is you, if you're trying to figure out how to know, when or if it's time to quit, I encourage you to do this exercise. I also encourage you that if you have resonated with something I've said today, if you've seen some of my other videos and you thought, wow, I would really like to learn some of these skills and get coached by Kathy and her team at Scholars Voice, then I encourage you to consider applying for our Navigate program. So if you're listening or watching in real time, applications for our next round of Navigate, our next cohort, they open today, July 11th, and they close on August 3rd. And then our next cohort starts August 14th and runs until November 3rd. So it's a 12-week program that wraps before the holidays, which I think is really nice, before, grade turning in time and Thanksgiving in the States and all of that. And if you're questioning whether your career can be sustainable, I believe that a sustainable career starts with putting writing at the center. Since publications are the currency of academia, in order to take control of our careers and really create something sustainable, we need to center our careers around writing. Navigate is a writing and publication program. You're going to learn how to map out your publication pipeline, how to project manage your writing, how to create an academic mission statement, and then align your calendar and the things you do and your pipeline so it supports that academic mission. And you are going to learn how to develop a sustainable and regular writing practice. We call it a relationship-based writing practice because it's all about nurturing the relationship between you and your writing. So applications are open. We do have like a 3-part enrollment process. The first part is the application. If your application is approved, then we will have a pre-enrollment call. That's me and you on a 45-minute pre-enrollment call. And what you're going to do, the third part of the process, is before our call, you're going to take our Navigate benchmark assessment. And that is an assessment that helps you to really see like kind of where you are right now. It's based on our Navigate framework. I'll explain all about it if you apply and your application is approved. And we will be discussing that assessment on our pre-enrollment call for Navigate. And we are looking for about 20 people to form the next cohort. We're very excited, to reach you if you are one of those 20. We can't wait to work with you. So go to scholarsvoice.org/navigate, find the pink button and apply. Also, in the show notes or in the description of this video, you will find a link to a simple Google Doc where I have written out all of the details, including the price of the program, including the dates of the calls, because there are live coaching calls weekly for 12 weeks. So you'll find out that information, first day, last day of the program, all of that you will find out in the document that I have linked up here. So yeah, thank you so much. And don't quit before you've really thought it through and done this exercise. All right. Have a great day. Bye. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time supporting yourself and your writing by listening to this episode. If you like what you heard today, the best way to say thank you is to hop on over to Apple iTunes and write an honest review. The more reviews, the more amazing academic women and non-binary people will find this podcast. So go write one now.